Hey, welcome everybody. This is John Paul Dutch of Dr. Speed Selling. This is Raging Verbalist, number 233 for those of you who are counting. Also, if you're new, great. Glad you're here. Hit that like button. Why would you hit the like button? Subscribe so you never miss one of these episodes. We are here on Fridays on YouTube and also Facebook group, which is Position to Win Book, Position to Win Book, which of course is my book. We talk about a variety of topics, things that are of interest to me. Shy away from a lot of heavy duty political stuff, but we do a lot of other stuff. And with me, as always, to ply me with the questions that if you had an opportunity, you would be doing the same thing is the ever lovely Sandra. Sandra, welcome.
Hello, how are you doing?
Well, as everybody can tell from my sunglasses, I mean, I am at at a timeshare. So, we are just spending some time sharing and doing all that stuff. So doing well.
Excellent, excellent. Our topic today, can you live without the internet? So, how often do you use the internet?
And the answer, of course, for anybody who's actually in business, anybody who's doing anything meaningful, is that we're on the internet constantly. And seemingly, if we have any kind of interruption, life is a hitch and a glitch and all of those things. So, right now, I would say, like what we're doing right now, we're on the internet, and that is something that I wonder about. I have been involved in so many networks that have been built. I wonder if there's like, I don't know, extra points if you get stuck in purgatory. You go, well, but I had to use this kind of internet for so many years. And, a deity says, well, okay, yeah, you've suffered enough and move you on.
All right. So, did you ever use dial-up? I know that's what I started using for the internet.
Well, dial up, yeah, it was crazy because I was at ground zero as the internet was blossoming and working as the evangelist for a startup from MIT. And these guys were all about the internet, and they were so excited. And I learned a lot about how the internet was operating and all of those things. And I started off with dial-up, and first thing I did was I bought a modem, and then bought a faster modem and another faster modem, and can still hear that screechy, crazy sound. It's one of those things that just is that earworm, as it's called, that goes into your head, and it just doesn't end. Now, when I first moved to California with selling high tech, I built a little lead sharing group, and one of the guys was a sales guy for US Robotics, and they were big in the modem business. And in fact, he told me, John, you are perfect for selling modems. And he told me how wonderful everything was, because at that point in time, for those who don't know what a bod is, like, it isn't like, you're ripped and you have, six pack abs or something. A bod, BAUD. So that's the rate of speed. And no, don't even look it up. It's just tiny, tiny. And he goes, well, the coolest thing is that we went from 1,200 baud to 2,400 baud, and it was a buck a baud. So he was selling stuff for $2,400. And then when they went from 2,400 to 4,800, well, it was a buck a baud. So they were 4,800, and literally companies were buying dozens and then hundreds of modems to try to connect as the world was, kind of pulling itself out of the primordial ooze. And then he said, man, this is so fantastic. I'm making so much commission. John, you got to come work for us. It's going to be great. And then, of course, the 9,600 bods came out. Oh, was it going to be 9,600 bucks? He was already getting excited. He was looking at pricing boats and everything like that. And well, they came out at 4,800 bucks, not 9,600. And then it kept going down and down and down. And eventually the highest baud rate that really worked over copper wire, which is what it required, which is dial up phone lines, was, I think it was 19.2. And, the whole giant baud thing was over. So yeah, I was stuck on that, and it was kind of a pain in the ass. I mean, I'm glad I didn't go do that, because I'm sure he's like, I don't know what he's selling today, but it surely isn't modems. And for you out there who don't think you have a modem, we all have one. It's just that, it looks like a box, and that's what the cable box is, or the whatever that box that you have, that really is a modem. It's just that we don't view it the way we used to.
And when did you first start using the internet?
Probably in that same period in the 90s, we started using it. And in fact, at that point in time, the guys at AOL were sending us, lots of discs, and every show I went to had discs, and they were floppies in the beginning. That's how crazy it was. And so I started out doing that in the 90s. And the problem is that it was, and actually I started using it before that, but that we can leave that to another day. But really, it was AOL and starting to use it with rich text and rich environment. But it was so damn slow. And here these guys at MIT are telling me, "Oh, John, here, go look at this URL, or website or whatever." And of course, you had to type everything in because those were the days. And it was so slow that literally I could click the load page, go make a sandwich and a cup of coffee and come back and still chug and chug and chugging along. So yeah, I've been using it since the early 90s is how long I've been using this thing.
And excuse me, when did you start using the internet on a cell phone?
Well, actually, I want to ask you, when did you start using the internet? So I mean, since you are of that youthful effervescence, so when did you start using it?
So my cousin made me a Hotmail account in the sixth grade.
There
Didn't
you
really use
go.
it much up until high school. A little tiny bit, maybe like if the teacher had us look something up on our little country school. They didn't require much computer usage out there. And then I used it maybe more in high school when the teacher would emphasize it for like some homework. So, yeah,
So
early
there
2000s, maybe the very late 90s. So,
there you go.
yes,
Well, and it's clean living, which gives you such a youthful appearance. I got it.
that's
So,
right.
all right. So now we get to move on.
Yes. Oh, so when did you start using the internet on a cell phone?
So I ended up with, because I've carried lots of times multiple cell phones. I've got more cell phones than I'd like to imagine I have right now, or want to count right now. But I ended up having a Nextel phone, and Nextel was a weird company. And Nextel really pushed and said, "Well, you've got this browser thing now. Understand it was a grayscale screen, and it was clunky and chunky and slow. And I was in Vegas, and surprise, I had actually made a bet on a football game. Surprise again, and I wanted to get the update on the score. And one of the coolest things that Nextel had shown was this demo of where you could be up to date on all the scores, and you would hit the refresh button, and literally this thing, you could watch it put each dot on the screen, and it drove me crazy. But that was the first time I actually used it on a cell phone, and that was essentially unusable. But it showed that we were going to get there. We were going to move in that direction, and then eventually started seeing things like smartphones, and then Blackberries, and then of course moved into real smartphones. But yeah, that's where I started it all. But of course, what you want to do if you want to start it all for yourself and you want to move forward in this day and age, because we are living in a very high speed time, is you want to make sure you don't make mistakes. And the mistakes that people make all the time are, well, most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. It just takes them 3 to 5 years to realize it. Position to win. This is a book that could save you a lot of pain, agony, and anguish. So check it out. It's available physically on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books A Million, and wherever books are sold. You can actually order it through them, or you can get it from the positiontowinbook.com website. Also, you can get it digitally by going to Kindle, Nook, or Apple Books. And then on the other side, so that's the Position to Win book. On the other side is Remote Work for a Better World. And this book is tied to our topic in a very big way, because we talk about the mistakes that people were going to make. We did it right when the pandemic was kicking off. And even today, though some people say some of the stuff is dated, I can tell you people continuously make these mistakes that they shouldn't make, because we easily have the solution and fixes. Go check that out. And that's available exclusively on Amazon Kindle. All right. So where are we at now, Sandra?
So when did the internet become truly usable?
I would say in the late early 2000s, early late 2000s. I don't know, 2005, 2006, something like that, maybe 2008. Because we'd already gone through the boom and the bust, and now the pieces were getting picked up. One of the things that having been there early on is that I ran into somebody who was running a streaming site, and she was making really good money. And this is like 99 or something. And the streaming that she was streaming was adult content, big surprise. And the size of the stream was, for a lower price, you could have 160 by 160 pixels. And I got to tell you, you got to have a lot of imagination to make that work. And then if you had a high speed, bigger pipe, you could get to, 320 by 320. I mean, just crazy, considering that people are out suing that they can't get 4K on their 6-inch smartphone. I mean, crazy stuff. So yeah, I think it became usable probably around 2006, 2008, really started to become usable.
And how many things do you do with the internet today?
Well, I do it. So I do email. Obviously, we do Zoom meetings all the time. We're constantly sending files back and forth. Early on in my coaching career, I had a client who said to me, "John, you should just, instead of recording," because I've always recorded all of my coaching sessions. By the way, if you're out there and want to know about coaching, go to my website. Uh, and what I would do is I would record these calls, and then we would take them and we would burn them onto CDs and then label them and then stick them into an envelope. In fact, I still have some mailers if anybody wants to buy those off of me, because I bought a bulk of them. And we used to mail them out to coaching clients. And he said, "Wow, wouldn't it be better if you just, we got through with this and you had it and you labeled it and then you could just send it to me?" So he introduced me to a file service, which at the time was called You Send It. Now it's called Hightail. Silly name. I don't know what it really means. Anyway, I've been a user of theirs for a very long time. I mean, there's lots of other places like, Dropbox and, all of these other kind of services. But what I found was amazing about that is that once I did that, now that kind of freed me up, because there was always restrictions. You can't send a 1 hour audio recording, even unless you crunch it down to nothing. So I started doing that, and we do that every single day. We're constantly doing that. Also, use various things like recording conversations, brainstorming sessions, on and on. So every day we're using it, and I know that you use it to go out and access all kinds of graphics. I mean, Sandra is, we'll give her kudos here. You are the one who just nails down all these great looking graphics and everything. And I know that you're using the internet to constantly go out and find material. So those are the things I use it for. I know you have different needs that you do. So, I think we're using it every day for all of those things. And, and I know, that there's a bunch of sites that you use.
Yes, especially now that a lot of the creative and editing things are online versus on the computer itself. There are desktop versions and things like that, but it just adds to the list of all the things to use the internet for.
Well, and
Definitely.
because excellent, because of that, now that internet's being used all the time, I'm sitting on a Southwest flight, and now it's become a thing where you can actually use you can use the internet on the Southwest flight. And in the beginning, it was really kind of sketchy and it didn't work very well. And I'm on a flight from Southern California to Denver, 2 hours and 20 minutes max. I've done it a zillion times. And they came over and they did an announcement, and they said, "Well, we've got some bad news. It just doesn't seem like the Wi-Fi is going to work. We've rebooted it a couple of times, so we're not going to have Wi-Fi." The guy sitting next to me looks at me and goes, "Wow, this is the worst thing that could happen." Now I'm looking out the window and looking at the jet engine as we're hitting 10,000 feet. And I'm thinking, I said to him, "Well, I kind of take exception to that. I think the engine catching on fire, would probably be worse than not having Wi-Fi." And he literally had nothing with him that he could do for 2 hours and 20 minutes. And I'm like, wow, alone with your thoughts could be very debilitating, I guess.
I guess so. All right. So what happens when you don't have reliable internet?
Well, I'm going to ask you, because I know that with storms and some of the things that have happened in your world. So, and then you travel in the state. What happens when you don't have reliable internet?
It cripples everything I need to do because working remote, doing this, it doesn't work very well without the internet. I don't think I have enough string in a tin can that would reach all the way to you. I don't think that would quite work. So, it's thankfully for us anyway, at least like when I travel up to my parents out in the country or things like that, the internet has become more reliable, and Nebraska has come out and said that they're taking the initiative to bring high-speed internet to rural areas and things like that. So here's, fingers crossed, hoping that that just keeps on going and they keep funding whatever they're doing. And it gets better and better because three-fourths of our state is like nothingness. So, but there are still people that live out there and need the internet for sure.
Well, and in my case, I don't have that rural issue where I'm at, but of course, since I have power outages and cable outages, because it's a little bit like, and I used to say living in Argentina because I've had sessions that we've had to cancel and stuff because of technical glitches like that. But then my co-author, co-conspirator Gabe said, John, you're dissing Argentina. They actually have better than that. So we've kind of selected maybe South Chad or someplace like that where there's just really not great. And what it does is it really hurts being able to operate at all today because everything is now tied and we use this pipe every single day, use it all the time. So yeah, it really does hurt having can't run the business without it.
And since you do so many webinars, coaching calls, etc., how effective are you when you travel?
Well, it's always a roll of the dice, and whenever I check in, and this is a timeshare that we've been coming to for 18 years. Every single time they say, "Well, what would you like to see improved?" And some people say, "Well, we need a better golf ball washer," or some silly dumbass thing like that, or how about water aerobics? And I'm always, you know, internet, Wi-Fi, make it faster, make it better, make it more reliable. I mean, right now today I've got my fingers crossed. I'm throwing salt over my shoulder. I've got Tibetan monks spinning and praying that this damn thing holds out. It's gotten better, but it's really can be troublesome. So whenever I travel, I always first thing I do is I start checking and seeing how well the internet operates because we are now in a much more rich environment. We're doing video, right? We're doing video all the time. It's just the nature of where we are today. So it's a struggle, and I become very aware of whether or not we have high speed or not. In fact, one time, well, not one time, oftentimes I'll get a whole bunch of stuff on my laptop, and then I'll be in the airport, and if there's like an American airline, not American, American Express Centurion Lounge, and by the way, it's one of the benefits that I get for that. It's expensive, but is that I can then upload things because it's just crazy because you can't really get that kind of speed and what that is because they don't balance it. They actually make it where downloading is easier than uploading. But if you're in business, oftentimes uploading is very, very, very important.
And is there something unique that you now take with you when you travel?
The answer is that's changed. So I used to carry an entire ensemble of a recording studio, and I have a bunch of things now. But probably the biggest thing is that I now carry a Roku device that I have in my house because I have multiple Roku devices. We're not getting paid by Roku, so if Roku's out there, send us dough. Okay, that would be cool. But actually, I found it to be very reliable. So whenever I check in, like when I checked in at this timeshare, the first thing I did was plugged in the Roku box, found the Wi-Fi, did some testing, see if it would work well enough. And for the most part, it does. And it's like carrying your digital life with you. And since you can get them as cheap as, I wouldn't buy the $20 ones, but you can get them as cheap as 30, 40, $50. Their big mama one is like $100. So I carry the Roku box all the time. And I wish I could say that I thought this up, but I was sitting on an airplane next to a guy. Now, this isn't the same guy who was complaining about no Wi-Fi. And we were talking about some of the things that he does. And he had a little Roku box, which looked really cool. as if I needed to buy another streaming device. And he goes, well, you see this? I carry, and it has all my preferences, has all my stuff. Now, of course, you got to worry about it getting, somebody stealing or something. But beside the point is that with just a few cables, this guy essentially had his very familiar digital life with him. And as long as you can get the Wi-Fi to work or get whatever it is to work, you're home free. So yeah, I'm carrying that all the time now.
And do you see this reliance continuing to grow?
Well, 10 years ago, because I always pose a question for my coaching and consulting clients and the various groups that I work with, I ask this question, which is, how will your business be changed once we achieve 1 gigabit ubiquitous internet speeds? And the reason why that's an important threshold, I don't know if there's magic in it, but then you don't end up with the jittering and this pausing and the popping and the issues and all of these other things. Like I do a Wednesday webinar, and sometimes we're moving a gigabyte of data. If you would have told me 10 years ago that I would be getting done with the webinar and then moving a gigabyte of data, and then that gets moved around the world, the video gets done, all of this stuff gets archived. I mean, it's just just an amazing, astonishing thing. Well, so if we can get to gigabit, I think what happens is that you're going to see travel plans change, where people are located is going to change, and all of that. The biggest complaints that people have always about remote work, and we wrote a book about it, is that they don't do it very well. People would hire somebody, or they had a team, and they'd say, well, go home, here's a laptop, find an alcove, away you go, instead of saying, okay, what is the fastest internet we can get? Now, I'm going to say this right now. I asked that question years ago, and nobody had gigabit, including businesses that were doing $25, $30 million. And then the speed demon of Omaha, the queen of speed, Sandra, actually ended up calling me one day and saying, very happily several years ago, hey, by the way, we have gigabit speeds up and down and all around. And I don't know if you remember that day, but my sense of awe and all of that. In fact, I even took out a sextant and kind of angled my way to bow to the east in Omaha. But you were the first person I've ever met seriously who had gigabit up and down. And now I want you to tell me about that experience, but I do want to tell everybody that the internet gods have punished her, because when she bought her house, they do not have gigabit up and down. And so tell us the before, the gig, and then the after the gig.
So obviously the before was fantastic. You could do anything, have no problems, no sputters, spits, whatever. We even had very few like outage problems at all. And it was CenturyLink, that's who we had. And it was fantastic. And they even gave us like this lifetime locked in cheapo price, and it was amazing. And so I did all types of like uploads and download stuff, and it'd be done in like seconds where you'd be waiting for, I don't know, 30 minutes or something. It'd be crazy. But and then now that we moved, I don't know what we have, but they lie that we do not have anywhere near what they say. And we've had some outages, but very little, so that's good. And now we're with Cox Communications, boo. I had them with a previous job, and it was just problem after problem, but it also could have been the area of town that we were in. So anyway, it has been slower. It's not horrific like before the almighty speeds, but they're improving, and we're really hoping to get it in our area again, but we'll see. I don't know. They're in the surrounding businesses around our neighborhood, but not for us. But we also have a creek behind a lot of the houses, so I'm wondering if that is part of the problem where they have to go. It's like, help, help, we're on an island. Help us.
Well, and of course, what she didn't share, and we will now, is that just in case she needs to get that fix, that high speed fix, that actually her mother-in-law still lives in that house, and they've kept that high speed. So if ever things go a little bit awry, Sandra can go just drive over, toss some stuff in the car, keep the lights out, drive in the dark so nobody even knows that she's sneaking over to snag some 1 gig speed and all of that. So right,
Exactly,
you still have
exactly.
that
We
backup plan.
kept it, and then I mean, I think Brandon's gone over there before when he's had internet out, so it has come in handy. We figure why not, or why lose that? We have a backup. Always have a backup. One is none, right?
One is none,
We have
exactly.
backup internet, so there you go.
Well, and for me, I've upped it as high as I can at my house. I've got supposedly a gig down, but I only have 40 up, and that's the annoying part, because of course when you're in business, that upload speed becomes a real gating factor. I mean, if you're going to send a gigabyte file, you got to like go start it, and then go start cooking or do something else, because it's going to be a while. So don't even plan on it. So, well, with that, the answer to the question is, can you live without the internet today? And I think the answer is no, because it has become so entwined in our lives. It used to be that the internet was this little, we had this big giant circle, and then this little dot on the side was this appendage called the internet, where actually now the big circle is the internet, and we're just all inside of that internet world. If you think that you're going to not want this to continue to advance, all I'm going to tell you is that speed is going to become a bigger and bigger thing, and we're going to see what happens over time. And I hope that you're a subscriber. I hope you'll come back. And so for myself, John Paul Mendoza, Dr. Speed Selling, and the ever lovely Sandra, this has been the Raging Verbalist number 233. And hopefully this came through nice and smooth, because you never know, because I'm on the road and the internet is a finicky thing.